one of your big messages recently is that the call of the hour for the Jewish people is actually to teach Torah to the world.
Yeah.
But I look at the Noahide laws, which are the commandments that are applicable to non-Jews, and I feel like, well, I could get through them in about half an hour. What is the Torah that we're meant to be teaching the world? There's so much out there. We as a Jewish people are saturated in the wisdom of the Torah, and there's so many elements to it. How much of it is something that is just relevant to us, and what parts of it should we be sharing? I've heard some rabbis in the past say things like the oral law is not meant to be, like the Talmud, is not something that we share openly with non-Jews. Is that something that was just sort of done for to stop oppression, or is that something that's an eternal principle? So what are we meant to be sharing and not sharing?
If we are meant to share the Torah, it must include the oral Torah, otherwise we're just making matters worse. You can't come to people and say, you must honor your father and mother. God commands it. And then they say, well, how do we do that? And you say, well, I don't know. It's not written. You're not helping. You're making matters worse. How do we know what it takes to honor parents? From the oral law, from the Talmud. So if we don't share that, we're crippling people. Oh, you're not honoring your parents. Really? What did I do? I don't know, but you're not honoring. You can't do that to people. You can't say, don't be cruel to animals. Well, what does that consist of? I don't know. Don't do this to me. Don't do this to anybody. So without the oral law, we have nothing but guilt, frustration. In fact, Christianity suffers from that that sense of never knowing whether I'm good or not. Because if I have a sinful thought, I'm doomed. Well, what's a sinful thought? I don't know, but be careful. Don't do this to me. So, yes, it has to include the oral law teachings about the 7 commandments. Every
Where did
commandment.
this idea come from that we shouldn't be sharing the oral Torah?
I think what they meant is the debates, the argument of where do we get this definition from? How do we reason our way? That should not be shared because it's unnecessary. So the whole Talmudic process is not necessary. Other than,
is it necessary for Jews?
Yes.
All Jews?
Well, how many Jews in a given community need to be knowledgeable in Jewish law? At least half? More than half? So yeah, for Jews to be knowledgeable in how Jewish law develops and what the background is and what the reasoning is, it enhances your Judaism. But to know right from wrong, you don't need to go through all the debates, and that's number one. Number two, in terms of our obligation to share the Torah with the world, you could even debate: is it more important for Jews to practice Judaism, or is it more important for Jews to teach non-Jews how to practice morality? So one of the descriptions, or one of the descriptions of Mashiach. What is Mashiach going to accomplish that is so significant? He's going to inspire the non-Jews. Because if the non-Jews are not inspired, we will not have peace. If we don't have peace, then we can't properly practice our Judaism. We're distracted. So, of course, Mashiach brings peace. But what does that mean? All of a sudden, everyone will be at peace with everybody else. Makes sense. What will happen that will cause peace to reign on earth? If everyone agrees in principle to what life is all about. So that is going to be the special effect that only Mashiach can accomplish. That the entire world, the most wicked of the nations, will be inspired to serve God properly. So, is that a prerequisite for Jews being able to live as Jews and practice Judaism properly? Yes. So, of course, the ultimate goal is to be able to practice Judaism properly in a land of peace and quiet, where you can really devote yourself to the knowledge of God without distraction and without anxieties. But how do we get past those anxieties? By getting the whole world to join with us in serving God. And isn't that what the prophet says? That when Mashiach comes, all nations will serve God cooperatively, not necessarily doing the same things. Jews will still be putting on tefillin, non-Jews won't.
So what
Jews
if
will
the
be keeping. Go ahead.
what if the commandments should we be teaching? I mean, you mentioned honoring a father and mother. That's not one of the 7 mitzvot. So that sounds like there are more than just the 7 that we should be teaching. And perhaps also one of the things I love doing is digging into the deeper biblical narratives and seeing the messages that are there. Are those things we should be teaching? And let's say you mentioned tefillin. There's a lot that can be learned from the mitzvah of tefillin, even if you're not Jewish. So what are we teaching? Everything? Is it just a free-for-all, or what should our focus be and not be?
You see, there is no truth in advertisement. We were told there are 10 commandments awaiting us at Mount Sinai. 10. How that turned into 613.
That's funny.
And then we tell the world there are 7 commandments. How that 7 turned into 300, I don't know.
Oh, there's 300?
Approximately. I didn't sit down and count them all, but here's the idea. All the commandments that are rational, that have obvious benefit to life on earth, everyone is obligated. Like, for example, cross-examining witnesses before executing the criminal. Is that only for Jews? That's ridiculous.
Right.
So all the laws that make life livable, like not slandering, not bearing false witness, it's not one of the 7. But without it, there's no life. Charity is not one of the 7. But a person who never gives charity is not helping make life livable in this world. So all the commandments that are between man and man Benodam lechavera, and all the commandments that are rational, meaning they have a practical benefit to life on earth, all those commandments are obligatory on all human beings. A man should not wear a woman's garment, and a woman shouldn't wear a man's garment. What is that, voodoo? No, that's very practical, sensible. So that all human beings have to observe. Take that a step further. Every profession, every job that people do, like polishing shoes, the guy who polishes shoes on the streets is doing it to survive for the few pennies that he gets. No, he's actually serving God because polishing shoes, in some small way, makes life more livable. The guy who invented the toothbrush has a place in heaven waiting for him because he made life on earth better. If you make life on God's earth better, you are serving God.
But let's say talking about, I did a video a few days ago about tefillin, and there are plenty of non-Jewish people that are watching it, and I think they certainly were intrigued and inspired. Are these things, the parts that don't necessarily apply to non-Jews, are these things that are worthy of being spoken about and taught to non-Jews, and the narratives in the Torah that can bring out principles perhaps rather than specific laws?
Well, right. So they're not really laws, they're moral concepts,
Mm.
which of course is good. So it's not an obligation, or let's put it this way, they're, they are not essential for the mission and the purpose of making life on earth better. You can fulfill your purpose in life without studying about tefillin.
Mm.
If you're Jewish, you can't.
Mm.
You can't fulfill the purpose for your existence if you're not wearing tefillin for men. So everything that inspires is helpful. The stories of Avraham and Noah and Moses, and yes, they're all inspiring and it's great. It's not essential to the purpose.
Well, let me frame my question differently then. The elements of Torah and the commandments and life that are about the Jewish people's particular relationship with God, is it important for non-Jews to appreciate that particular relationship?
I'm not sure if I can call it important, but it is certainly inspiring. If we're going to inspire people to keep the commandments they must keep, telling them of our own experience is very helpful. Modeling. How did you serve God through all the difficult years? That's inspiring. So, inspirational, yes. Obligatory, no. Necessary, maybe.
Hmm. Well, it's just because you've described the Messianic times as being like a wedding, and a wedding is all about celebrating a particular relationship, and you described the non-Jewish nations as being guests at a wedding.
Which is inspiring and enjoyable. I'm not sure it's essential.
Right.
You have to be at the wedding.
Right. Hi, thank you so much for watching. To watch another one, click here. To stay up to date with all our content, click here to subscribe. And if you're able to, you can help support JTV to grow and grow by clicking join below this video, where you can become a member and get perks including early access to videos and private live discussions with me. But most of all, you'll be partnering with us on our mission to change the world.